everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Tiger Lily, and today we are going to be reacting to Ben Shapiro video titled Insane Video Exposes Preschool Teaching Gender Identity. So, without any further ado, we're going to get right into this mess. And, yeah.
The parents' movement is very real, and it is not going away. I know the left wishes for the parents' movement to go away. I know that they wish for radical social activists to be able to indoctrinate children without anyone looking over their shoulder. They get to make all the social standards, lest someone, God forbid, be offended.
Well, Ben Shapiro is being very offended. And for some reason, teaching gender identity has to do with extreme socialist leftists who want to control every aspect of his life, apparently. I don't know where the heck he's pulling that from, but you can all take a guess. But anyway, let's continue on with this video as he, within the first 13 seconds, wraps gender identity and politics into one little nice, neat bow.
But guess what? Parents are not going to let up on the oversight here. They're not going to give up on what their kids learn in school, because we can all see it happening. All this stuff is now being exposed for everyone to see. Again, it starts in places overseas like the UK or across the border like in Canada, but it doesn't stay there. I mean, over in the UK right now, we now have students being told to stop calling teachers Mr. and Mrs. According to the National Education Union over in Britain, British teachers are now being told that students should not refer to them as Mr. and Mrs. in order to foster a gender-free education model. This is according to Breitbart reporting. Dr. Ellie Barnes told educators in a lecture entitled Getting the Language Right for 2022 that pupils should use gender-neutral terms such as teacher when in the classroom. The 90-minute webinar from Dr. Barnes, a copy of which was obtained by the UK Telegraph, went on to advocate for classrooms to abandon other gender-specific terms like boys, girls, son, and mother in favor of alternatives like students, pupils, child, and parent. During the lecture, Dr. Barnes introduced a code of conduct to be introduced at the start of term and said those who disagreed with the far-left agenda should be barred from the school.
I doubt that he said those who disagree with the far-left agenda. I'm pretty sure he's adding his own words into that because politics don't have anything to do with teaching gender identity and being respectful of those other students who may not identify with the binary. It's a great way to foster, inclusion and belonging and equality in the school. So those students don't feel ostracized and singled out just because they're different.
The Educate and Celebrate chief also said schools should be introducing gender-free uniforms, saying, don't say a boy's fit or a girl's fit. The charity's website boasts thousands of nurseries, primary schools, secondary schools, colleges, and businesses have signed up for their Pride in Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Award.
Yes, Pride, Equity, and Inclusion. My goodness, what a horrific crime. What an outrage this is. This guy is something else. Anyway, let's get back into the video.
Where they are recommending how to transform your school into an LGBT plus friendly place. Right? It's not just in Britain or in Canada. It's happening here in the United States.
Heaven forbid that, schools be a safe and friendly environment for people belonging to the LGBTQ plus community. My goodness, we should have them have separate schools and separate water fountains, so they feel super extra, ostracized from society, beat into their head that, they do not belong in this world. My goodness, what a positive message Mr. Shapiro is toting here.
It's starting in some of these woke independent private schools, but it's not going to remain there because it never does. So Breitbart obtained exclusive footage from the National Association of Independent Schools. And the National Association of Independent Schools had a flagship conference in 2020 with an hour-long training workshop. And it featured discussions about how to talk to kids about gender, sexuality, and identity. And they've released clips of this, of the NIAS.
Oh, I thought it was exclusively obtained footage. Not, freely given and shared by the organization itself. At the beginning, before, he mentions that it was shared by the organization itself, the few clips, it was like, exclusively obtained. So, my goodness, like, which is it, Mr. Shapiro? Exclusively obtained this, horrendous material, or was it shared freely?
Okay, now this is what the teachers' unions across the country would like rammed into public schools as well. So this is not restricted to the sort of stuff that you get at Crossroads School in Los Angeles. Just recognize this is what the left would like. And they would like to do this at points of gun if they could get away with it, because they have no problem with using government force. Everything, according to the left, is either compulsory or banned. Those are the only two categories.
And of course, once again, conflating the teaching of gender identity and politics. They don't belong together, but everything has to be, my team against your team, red against blue. Go red.
Everything not compulsory is forbidden. Okay, so here are some of the clips from this piece of educational content produced by an NAIS conference contractor. This one talking about the Everybody tool and how it should be introduced to small children.
With the younger children starting in PreK, we talk about their bodies, about the parts that they were born with, about penises and vaginas and whether that makes somebody a boy or a girl, but also their feelings. What do they feel like inside? Do they feel like a boy or a girl? What does their head say?
Don't worry, it won't enter the schools. I mean, they're just training teachers to actually put this in the schools, but don't worry, this won't enter the schools. Here is a recommendation on what should be taught to pre-K kids.
I think there's nothing wrong with them teaching that. I mean, if anyone's seen the movie Kindergarten Cop, I mean, little kids know what, I'm going to insert the clip up here.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
Thanks for the tip.
Little kids know what penises and vaginas are, but now they're just learning that even if you have one of those parts, it doesn't necessarily mean that you belong to the boy camp or the girl camp at all. It depends on, how they feel in their heart, mind, and soul. And that's just great for, them teaching that, because it just fosters, more understanding of different people in the world for these young minds, so they become more accepting and have a broader understanding of different people, which is wonderful. I don't know why Ben Shapiro's getting so all hopped up and angry about it.
We're talking about pre-K would be like 4-year-olds.
I had been given a title to a book, so I went to our school library to pull it, and I pulled it thinking I had the right one. I didn't. And I read through, I'm like, this is really progressive stuff, but it was my first year, so I'm like, okay, we're just super progressive. So I went in there guns blazing, and I just went for it. And I ended up talking about the vulva and the labia with pre-cares, and it was just one of those moments, everybody's looking in horror, and I'm like, oh no, I made a really big mistake.
Now, for 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, teaching about the vulva and labia and things like that, I think that's going a little bit over the children's heads with such detailed terms. They just need to stick with the penis, the vagina, and because kids can understand that at that age, but don't go into, such like the intricacies of each, body part, because it's just going to go right over the children's heads, and I don't think anybody would benefit from that. They need to save that for a little bit later, like maybe 5th grade, 6th grade, to get more into detail about that stuff.
Well, I mean, but the fact that she even thought that was remotely acceptable demonstrates, you can listen to the woman who's preaching this, right? I just thought it was really progressive. If they thought they could get away with it, they would get away with it. And it was only when people started, more of us need to look on in horror at what they are attempting to teach small children. It's crazy. Here's what they're recommending to teach 2nd graders. Okay, my daughter is in 2nd grade. My daughter is currently 8 years old. She just turned 8. Okay, this is what they would like to teach to 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds in schools.
By 2nd grade, we move on explicitly to gender identity and talk about it again, in terms of your head and your heart and your body parts matching up. And does that work for you? What happens if it doesn't? What are the other parts of you that have to do with your gender identity, and what are the parts of you that don't? And the kids draw wonderful self-portraits again, but dealing with all aspects of their identity.
Now, I think that's great for 7 and 8-year-olds to be learning. I know I wish that I was taught about that, your head, heart, and soul doesn't have to align with what your body is, because mine definitely did not, and it would have been very invaluable information to, be able to decipher the difference at that young age. I could have saved myself a lot of heartache, and just feeling horrible, and in denial about who I really was, much, much longer ago. But obviously, Mr. Shapiro has a problem with it.
These are folks who are indoctrinating children in sexual fluidity at the age of 7 or 8.
Indoctrinating children in sexual fluidity. My goodness. That it's not indoctrinating anything. It's literally teaching them that there are different people out there, that sometimes their heart, mind, and soul don't, mesh with the gender that they were assigned at birth. We're not refuting, biological sex. I know that, chromosomally and biologically, I'm a male, but my heart, mind, and soul are not. They've always been feminine. They've always been a girl. And there's nothing wrong with teaching children that there are people out in the world that exist that, have this incongruency. There's nothing wrong with it. There's not indoctrinating. It's just like literally giving the children a broader view of the world that we all live in, which is wonderful. But I guess, Ben Shapiro is against, learning.
This is what they want. Okay, don't let them pretend this isn't what they want. This is what they want. They want to teach your kids the way they want to teach your kids, and you're supposed to have no say. And if you protest, then this makes you a bigot, according to them. We're not going to forget all this. I mean, honestly, I'd love to see any Democratic candidate asked about this sort of stuff. Do you disagree? Really, let's get you on the record, because this seems like fairly obvious stuff. Get a Democratic candidate in a purple district to announce whether they agree or disagree that gender identity should be taught to 6-year-olds. I mean, first of all, gender identity shouldn't be taught to anybody because it's a bunch of anti-scientific bullcrap.
Anti-science bullcrap, as he puts it. Just because, he doesn't believe an incongruency between mind and body can occur, and that, not necessarily everybody that's born, one sex identifies with that sex's gender, and he's kind of saying that those people, because of that, don't exist, is kind of like in the same arena as, people not believing that the Holocaust happened. But any, person that studies history knows that the Holocaust was real, it was horrendous, and it actually happened. But if he wants to be in the same camp as the people that believe that the Holocaust didn't happen and it wasn't real, along with people who are trans, don't exist, and aren't real, then he's very welcome to be in that camp. That's fully his right as American to think whatever he wants to think and to believe whatever he wants to believe. Just like Holocaust deniers. But, my goodness. Now, you see, the thing is,
The left knows they have to get them at 6, 7, or 8 because otherwise their brains might develop such that they know that this is stupidity. Kids are extraordinarily docile at 6 or 7 years old when it comes to imbibing stupidity and then believing it.
Now, I have to kind of disagree with 6 and 7-year-olds are fooled quite easily or easily indoctrinated with things, because when I was actually younger than 6 and 7, my mom would take my sister and myself to this one church. She just really wanted friends, but it was kind of like a culty type situation, and they would speak in tongues, not to vilify or like harp on anybody's belief that, you know, if like speaking in tongues is part of your belief, then more power to you. I'm not trying to like step on anybody's toes or hurt anybody's feelings about what they believe religiously, but at that young age, I knew it was just a whole bunch of just like nonsense, because I would make fun of the people who would like stand up and speak in tongues, so to say, because I could speak in tongues just as well as those people could, and I knew it was just like, it was very funny and amusing to me even at that young age, because I knew it was just, you know, really silly and just fake, and children are a whole lot more smarter and aware than you give them credit, Mr. Shapiro.
Okay, here is one more clip of the National Association of Independent Schools sexual material training for young kids.
Gender identity is how you feel inside. It's what you feel like in your heart and in your head, just like the language that we used when they were younger. But it's something personal. It's something that's unique to you. It's something that you get to decide. Gender expression is what you share with the world, how you dress, how you act, what you're interested in, what you put out there. And that, again, is your choice. It's something that you can change from day to day. It's completely up to you. Sexual orientation is who you are emotionally and physically attracted to. And so that's how we talk about it with the kids and introduce them to it.
I think that's great that they're teaching that, because, like I said earlier in the video, I really wish that I had learned the difference between sexual orientation and attraction versus, you know, your gender identity, and the two are not linked, and they have nothing to do with one another. And it would have really helped me not been in such denial about my transness. But unfortunately, it wasn't until very recently, like about a year and a half ago or so, that I was able to, you know, decipher the difference, thanks to a good friend.
Hey, do you want this in your schools? We're not going to forget about what your agenda is. We're not going to forget about your bad governance over the past several years, which materialized unbelievably fast. There used to be like a 5 to 10 year period before you saw the effects of bad governance. If somebody raised taxes, it would take a few years for that to be felt. Over the course of the pandemic, time got shortened into extraordinarily small bites. And that meant that as soon as they said defund the police, the murder rate just went up immediately. As soon as they said we're not going to enforce the law, massive homeless surge. And so all of the cause and effect became very, very clear. We're not going to forget about that, because we saw what happens in real time when your policies are implemented. We're not going to forget what you did.
I don't know why he is conflating, like, governmental policies under, you know, a Democratic rule or a Republican rule or whatever has anything to do with teaching gender identity in schools. I don't know why he cannot get away from his political slant when it comes to gender identity. The two are not linked. But apparently in his mind, they are.
But here's the thing we're really not going to forget about. What your ambitions are, what you guys would like to do. Take control of all aspects of our life, from our banking to how we raise our kids. We understand the agenda. And if that's not your agenda, forcibly disavow it now.
I disavow not wanting to take over his banking or any aspect of his life. I do not want to be involved in Ben Shapiro's life at all. Like, this guy is completely insane. If he actually believes that people teaching gender identity, and I guess in this case he conflates it with Democrats wanting to control every aspect of his life. It's like, no, like, first of all, like, the LGBTQ plus community does not want to control any aspect of anybody's life. It's not about control at all. And I don't know why he thinks that it's about control. And wanting to, like, force him into some sort of submission. It's really baffling why he believes this stuff. All the LGBTQ plus community wants is, equality and the same opportunities as anybody else, and to be treated with respect and kindness just like any other human on this earth. Like, come on, guy. Like, what are you thinking? Who hurt you? Like, who hurt you? Who hurt you, Ben? Who hurt you?
That's why 2022 is going to be hideous for them, and it should be hideous for them, and they deserve every single thing that they get in 2022, which will include losing the House, and I think will include losing the Senate as well.
Wow. So that last, 3 minutes had nothing to do with the topic of the video, which doesn't surprise me. But wow, did you hear the hate in his voice when he's talking about Democrats and how they're trying to, run every single aspect of his life? Now, that might be the Democrats. I don't know. I can't speak for the Democrats. But he's conflating, the LGBT plus community with the Democrats and wanting to, rule every part of his life, which is really strange. But I'd like to hear what all you guys think. Do you agree with Mr. Shapiro? Do you disagree with Mr. Shapiro? I'd really like to see what you guys think down in the comments. Remember, we are all here to learn, love, and lift each other up. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys back in the next video. Bye.
Say goodbye.